Welcome to DSEJ Home Classes, an attempt to connect learner with the instructor, a digital initiative by Directorate of School Education. So my dear students, yesterday we have studied about the various tissues of the flowering plants. In today's chapter, we shall be studying about the tissue systems. So we were discussing the types of tissues based on the types of the cells present in them. Now let's consider how tissues vary depending on their location in the plant body. Their structure and the function would also be dependent on their location. On the basis of their structure and location, we have three types of the tissue system. The first one is the epidermal tissue system, which is the surrounding layers this consists of. The ground tissue system, which forms the main bulk of the tissues, and the vascular or the conducting tissue system, which forms the xylem and the phloem. So we have three types of the systems: epidermal tissue system, ground tissue system, and the vascular tissue system. The epidermal tissue system consists of epidermis and periderm in the older stems and roots. It becomes periderm. Its function is protection and prevention of the water loss. Similarly, ground tissue system, which consists of parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma distributed anywhere in the plant body and meant for diverse type of functions such as photosynthesis, food storage, regeneration, support, protection, etc. Vascular tissue system, which consists of xylem and phloem, is actually meant for the transport of water, minerals and food respectively. Let's consider these tissue systems one by one, starting with the epidermal tissue system. The epidermal tissue system forms the outermost covering of the whole plant body and comprises of epidermal cells, stoma and the epidermal appendages, which consist of trichomes and hair. The epidermal cells is the outermost layer of the epidermis of the primary plant body. It is made up of elongated, compactly arranged cells which form a continuous layer. Epidermis is usually single layered. Epidermal cells are the parenchymatous cells with small amount of cytoplasm. These are parenchymatous cells. They have large vacuole, but small amount of cytoplasm is present in them, and they line the cell which the cytoplasm which that lines the cell wall, and because whole of the cell is covered with the vacuole. Outside of the epidermis is often present a waxy thick layer which is called the cuticle, that is further present for prevention of the water loss. Cuticle, however, is absent in the roots. The next is the stomata. This is the stomata. The stomata are the structures present in the epidermis of the leaves. Stomata regulate the process of transpiration and gaseous exchange because they have the capacity of opening and closing at different time and different times and different requirements of the plant body. Each stoma, as you can see in this figure, these two types of the stomata are shown. This is the stomata present in the dicot plants. This is the stomata present in the monocot plants. And these two structures, one is representing the open stomata, this is the open, and this is closed stomata, and this is closed stomata. Each stomata is composed of two bean-shaped cells known as God cells, which enclose the stomatal pore. In monocots, this stomata is dumbbell shaped, as you can see in this figure. The outer walls are walls of the God cells away from the stomatal pore, that is, this one is called the outer wall. This is away from the stomatal pore is this one. This is the stomatal wall. The stomatal wall are thin and inner walls are little thicker. which are towards the stomatal pores. The God cells possess the chloroplast and regulate the opening and closing of stomata. Sometimes a few epidermal cells in the vicinity of the God cell also become specialized in their shape and size, and these are called as the subsidiary cells. That is, as you can see in this figure, these are the stomatal cell, the cells surrounding to the God cells. These are called as the subsidiary cells. The stomatal aperture, God cells, and the surrounding subsidiary cells, they are together called as the stomatal apparatus. Next we will be talking about these appendages, that is these epidermal appendages. Epidermis bears a number of hair which are called as the root hair, etc. The root hairs are unicellular, as you can see in this figure, the unicellular hair, multicellular hair, branched multicellular, and the rhizodermal cell types. The root hairs are unicellular elongations of the epidermal cells and help to absorb water and minerals from the soil. On the stem, the epidermal hair are called the trichomes. The trichomes in the shoot cells are usually multicellular like this. In root cells, these are unicellular. They may be branched or unbranched. For example, this one is unbranched and here it is branched. And they may be soft or they may be stiff. They may even be secretory sometimes. The trichomes help in preventing the water loss due to transpiration. Now, these are the some of the appendages in the epidermal tissue. Next, we will be discussing the ground tissue system. The ground tissue system. Ground tissue means the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma present anywhere inside the plant body. The ground tissue system actually forms the bulk of the plant body. It includes all tissues except epidermis and vascular bundles. The primary function of this tissue system is storage and manufacture of the food material. In monocotyledonous plants, the ground tissue is differentiated, not exactly differentiated like this. It is not exactly differentiated into this pericycle, cortex, pith, etc. This is the this figure represents the ground tissue of the dicotyledonous plants, where you can see the xylem and the phloem are distinctly marked, which are represent the vascular tissue system. Epidermal root hair, they represent the epidermal root hair, and all the rest, the blue colored one, is the ground tissue system. And this consists of all the tissues, the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Parenchymatous cells are usually present in cortex, pericycle, pith, and medullary rays. In primary stems and roots, in leaves, the ground tissue system consists of, in case of leaves, it consists of thin-walled chloroplast containing cells, to which we call the mesophyll. The next is the vascular tissue system. You have to see this figure very closely. I will be depicting it like this. The vascular tissue system consists of the complex tissues, the phloem and the xylem. The xylem and phloem together constitutes vascular bundles. In monocotyledonous stem, the cambium is present, not present generally, but in dicotyledonous stem, the cambium is present between xylem and phloem. Such vascular bundles, because of the presence of cambium, possess the ability to form the secondary xylem and secondary phloem because of their meristematic activities, and hence such bundles are called as the open vascular bundle. In monocots, however, the vascular bundles have no cambium in them, hence they are called as the closed vascular bundle. You can see these figures. This one is the open vascular bundle because here we can see the layer, the cambium in between the xylem and the phloem. But in this one, This is the closed vascular bundle because xylem and phloem are definitely present but no cambium in between. This is the characteristic feature. The closed vascular bundle is the characteristic feature of the monocots, whereas the open vascular bundle is present in the dicots. Hence, since they do not form the secondary tissue, hence they are called as the closed. When xylem and phloem within a vascular bundle are arranged in the alternate manner on different radii, the arrangement is called as radial, and such a arrangement is present in the roots like this. That is, you can see the xylem and the phloem are not present together, they alternate with each other. This arrangement is seen in case of root, and such arrangement is called as the radial arrangement. In conjoined type of the vascular bundle, which is the xylem and phloem are situated at the same radius of the vascular bundle. That is what I have to say, that if the xylem and phloem are present at the same radius, this is conjoint. If xylem and phloem are present in the different radii, this is called as the radial arrangement. Such vascular bundles are common in stems and leaf, the conjoint one. The conjoint vascular bundles usually have the phloem located only on the outer side of the xylem, as you can see here. When this phloem is present on both the sides of the xylem, such a condition is called as bicollateral vascular bundle. And if the xylem is surrounded by the phloem on all the sides, such a condition is known as amphicribal. And if xylem surrounds the phloem from all sides, such a condition is called as the amphivasal condition. These are the various types of the vascular bundles, and now we shall be discussing the anatomy of the stem, root and leaf one by one. Let's discuss them, because for a better understanding of the tissue organization roots in root, stem and leaves, it is convenient to study the transverse section. So whatever the structure we explain, that is of the transverse section. First we will be explaining the dicot stem and the monocot stem. This is how they look like. This is the TS transverse section of the, this one is the dicot stem, this is the monocot stem, and this is the portion of the TS, that is small portion is focused under the microscope for a better understanding. The transverse section of a typical dicotyledonous stem shows that the epidermis is the outermost protective layer of the cell. As you can see in this figure, the epidermis is the outermost layer. Covered with a thin layer of cuticle, it may bear trichomes and a few stomata. The cells arranged in the multiple layers between epidermis and pericycle and constitutes the cortex. It consists of three. This is you can see it like this. These are the various layers. It consists of three subzones. The outer one is hypodermis, which consists of few layers of collenchymatous cells just below the epidermis. This is the hypodermis. Then which provide mechanical strength to the young stem. The cortical layers below the hypodermis consist of rounded, thin-walled parenchymatous cells with conspicuous intracellular spaces in between them. The innermost layer of the cortex is called the endodermis. The endodermis the cells are rich in starch grains, and the layer is also referred to as the starch sheath. Instead of endodermis, sometimes we call this starch sheath. The pericycle is present on the outer side of the endodermis and above the phloem in the form of semi-lunar patches of sclerenchyma, as you can very clearly see in this figure. Now, I am talking about after the endodermis. In between the vascular bundles, there are a few layers of the radially placed parenchymatous cells, which consist of the medullary rays. That is, these are the places where you can see the medullary rays. These are the medullary rays, and these medullary rays are the places where the vascular bundles are actually not present. Vascular bundles are present in the patches which are separated by these parenchymatous cells. And a large number of the rounded parenchymatous cells with the large intercellular spaces which occupy the central position of the stem constitutes the pith. Now let us talk about the monocotyledonous stem, and it's like this. The monocot stem has a sclerenchymatous hypodermis. Now you can see here there is no clear pith because the vascular bundles are quite scattered and not present in the ring as we saw in case of the dicot stem. They are present in the form of scattered vascular bundles. And how they differ from the dicot stem, I will just talk about that. A large number of scattered vascular bundles are there, each surrounded by the sclerenchymatous bundle sheath and a large conspicuous parenchymatous ground tissue. Vascular bundles are conjoined and closed. Peripheral vascular bundles are generally smaller than the centrally located ones. The phloem parenchyma is absent and the water containing cavities are present within the vascular bundle. In case of monocot stem, you see the pith is absent. In dicot, it is present. Pericycle is absent in monocot but present in dicot. No such structure as medullary rays can be distinguished in monocot stem, but it is present in the dicot stem. Vascular bundles are open because of presence of the cambial ring, whereas they are closed in monocots. Similarly, vascular bundles are arranged in the ring. They are scattered in the ground tissue. Bundle cap is present, bundle sheath is present in case of monocots. Hypodermis is made up of collenchymatous cells in case of dicots, whereas it is made up of sclerenchymatous cells in case of monocots. So after discussing the anatomy of the stem, let us talk about the anatomy of the root and how it looks like. I will just show it to you. The anatomy of the monocot root is similar to the dicot root, but with little differences. The outermost layer is the first dicot. The outermost layer is the epidermis. Many of the epidermal cells protrude in the form of unicellular hair. The cortex consists of several layers of thin-walled parenchymatous cells. Then the innermost layer of the cortex is the endodermis, which have the Casparian strips, which are the suberin material, waxy material. Suberin gets incorporated in them. Now, xylem is polyarch in monocot roots, whereas it is tetrarch. That is, it is star-shaped, and various bundles of the vascular xylem are present in the monocots, whereas they are 4 in case of tetrarch. Pith is usually large in the center in case of monocot root. Pith is usually absent in case of dicot root. Metaxylem vessels are generally circular in cross section. Metaxylem vessels are polygonal in cross section in dicot roots. Conjunctive tissue is sclerenchymatous in monocots. Conjunctive tissue is parenchymatous in dicots. Because the bundles are not open in case of monocots, hence there is no secondary growth, leaving aside a few exceptions, whereas secondary growth is generally present in the dicot roots. Now let us have a look at the anatomy of the leaf. This is how they look like. The vertical section, because we cannot cut the TS of the stem, so we cut the VS, the vertical section. First we will talk about the dicot root, which is like this. This one, this is the dicot root, dicot leaf, sorry. In the it shows 3 main parts, namely epidermis, mesophyll, and the vascular system. The epidermis, which consists which covers both the upper and the lower, the abaxial and the adaxial surface. It covers both the surfaces. The latter may even lack stomata. The upper surface may even sometimes lack stomata or very few stomata. The tissue between the upper and the lower epidermis is called as the mesophyll. Mesophyll, which possesses chloroplast and carry out the process of photosynthesis. It is made up of parenchyma. It consists of two types of cells, the palisade parenchyma and spongy parenchyma. The adaxially placed palisade parenchyma is made up of elongated cells, as you can see in this figure. It has two types of cell, the palisade parenchyma and spongy parenchyma. The palisade parenchyma are these ones, and this is the spongy parenchyma, the loosely arranged cells. In the center is present the vascular bundle. Vascular bundle includes xylem and phloem, which can be seen in the form of midrib in the leaf. The size of the vascular bundle are dependent upon the size of veins. The veins vary in thickness in reticulate venation of the dicot leaf. The vascular bundles are surrounded by a layer of thick-walled bundle sheath cells, as you can see in this figure. This is the bundle sheath. These are the vascular bundles which represent the midrib, and this is the structure of the dicot leaf. Now, the monocot leaf, it shows variations which you can see in this figure. What is the structure of the monocot leaf? The anatomy of the isobilateral leaf. It is also called as isobilateral because it is not different from abaxial and adaxial surface. It shows some differences from the monocot leaf, from the dicot leaf. The stomata are present on both the surfaces of epidermis, and mesophyll is not differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. It is not well differentiated. In grosses, certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify themselves into large empty colorless cells, to which we call bulliform cells. They help in curling of the leaf. When the bulliform cells in the leaves have absorbed water and are turgid, the leaf surface is exposed. When they are flaccid, they make the leaf curl inwards to minimize water loss. Parallel venation in monocot leaf is reflected in the near similar sizes of the vascular bundle, except in the main vein, as seen in the vertical section of the leaf. As you can see in this figure, these vascular bundles are almost of the same times, which reflect the parallel venation of the leaf. Now, after studying the anatomy, we are now discussing the secondary growth. Secondary growth, it increases the thickness of the stem and is very important. The growth of roots and stems in length with the help of apical meristem is called the primary growth. But apart from the primary growth, the dicotyledonous plants exhibit an increase in the girth. This increase is called as the secondary growth. The tissues involved in the secondary growth are the lateral meristem, vascular cambium, cork cambium, and the result, this thickness takes place in 3 steps, that is the formation of the secondary xylem and secondary phloem, formation of cork, and formation of the lenticels. Let us discuss these one by one. And the first is the vascular cambium. Vascular cambium, as already discussed, this is the layer of the vascular cambium which is in between the xylem and the phloem. The meristematic layer, which is responsible for cutting off the vascular bundles, xylem and phloem, is called as the vascular cambium. In the young stem, it is present in patches as a single layer between xylem and phloem. But as you can see in the figure, later on it becomes a complete ring. How it is formed? Let us discuss the formation of the cambial ring. In dicots, the cells of the cambium present between primary xylem and primary phloem is called as intrafascicular cambium. As I was telling you that I will be discussing the fascicular and the intrafascicular cambium in the last lecture. Now you can very well understand what is intrafascicular. The cambium region present between the two vascular bundles is called as the intrafascicular, and present in between the xylem and phloem is called as fascicular cambium. Thus, with the help of fascicular and intrafascicular, a complete continuous ring of the cambium is formed. Now, vascular cambium, the plural is the cambia or the cambimus, is a lateral cambiums, is a lateral meristem in the vascular tissue of the plant. Vascular cambium, as you can see here, how does it result in this vascular cambium adds up to the secondary xylem, and the secondary phloem is a cylindrical layer of the cambium that runs through the stem and undergoes the secondary growth. Now, how does it occur? Let us see the activity of the cambium ring, which you can well understand with the help of this diagram. The cambium ring, this is a cut open portion of the cambium, and you can see how does it work. Here is seen the secondary phloem and the secondary xylem. This vascular cambium layer is labeled here. A cambial ring between the active and becomes active and begins to cut off the new cells both towards the inner and the outer sides. The cells cut off towards the pith mature into secondary xylem, and the cells cut off towards the periphery mature into secondary phloem. The cambium is generally more active on the inner side than on the outer side. As a result, the amount of secondary xylem produced is more than the secondary phloem and soon forms a compact mass. The primary and the secondary phloem get gradually crushed due to the continuous formation and accumulation of the secondary xylem. The primary xylem, however, remains more or less intact in or around the center. At some places, the cambium becomes narrow band of parenchyma, as you can see here. It becomes narrow band of parenchyma which passes through the secondary xylem and secondary phloem in the radial direction. Thus, the secondary medullary rays may appear in the later time. So, this is how the cambium activity takes place, and as a result of the cambium activity, when it is under the control, because the activity of cambium is under the control of many factors, and out of which the most many physiological and environmental factor. In temperate regions, the climate conditions are not uniform throughout the year. In the spring season, the cambium is active and produces a large number of xylary elements having vessels and wider cavities. The wood formed during this season is called as the spring wood or the early wood, because it is the early wood. It occurs during spring season. It constitutes the major part of the annual ring because the cambium is very active. Spring wood is present in the beginning of the annual ring, forms plenty of xylem vessels, etc. And definitely this wood is lighter in color and has lower density, whereas in winter the cambium has less active and forms the autumn wood, and it is also called as the late wood. It is formed during winter season, and the late wood, the xylary elements have the narrow vessels, and that's why it's called the late wood. The wood is which is formed in the autumn is darker and has a higher density as compared to the spring wood. Now I must mention that spring wood is lighter in color and has lower density, and the autumn wood is darker in color and has the higher density. The two kinds of the woods that appear as alternate concentric rings, as you can see in this diagram, the sapwood and these two types of the early wood and the late wood, they are forming the alternate concentric circles because of their different color and different density, and this constitutes one annual ring or the growth ring. Annual rings can be seen in the cut stems, and which gives us an indication of the approximate age of the plant. Now let's discuss cork cambium, that is the secondary growth of the cortical region. As the stem continues to increase in girth due to the activity of the vascular cambium, the outer cortical and the epidermal layers get broken and need to be replaced by the new protective layers. Hence, sooner or later, another meristematic layer called as the cork cambium that comes into existence. This cork cambium comes into existence, and this is basically the cork cambium is there are two basic types of the dermal tissues, the epidermis and the periderm. Epidermis and cortex forms the primary growth, which are replaced by the periderm and is also called as the cork cambium. It consists of cork, phallogen and the phalloderm, and let us discuss this one by one. The phallogen is a couple of layers thick. It is made up of narrow, thin-walled and nearly rectangular cells. You can very well see it here, how it is formed. In the phallogen cuts off the cells on both the sides. The outer cells differentiated into cork or the phellum. As you can see, it is differentiated into cork or the phellum. And when this phellum, after this, because it is formed by the activity of the cells of the cork cambium, which gives the periclinal divisions forming the cells towards the outer side, while the inner cells differentiate into secondary cortex or the phalloderm. The cork is impervious to water because suberin gets deposited in these cell walls. The cells of the secondary cortex are parenchymatous. Now phallogen, phellum and the phalloderm are collectively known as the periderm, which is the replacement of the epidermis and cortex of the primary tissue. Due to the activity of cork cambium, pressure builds on the remaining layers of the peripheral to the phallogen, and ultimately these layers are sloughed off. That the bark is actually, and this is what is formed, the bark. Actually, this bark is a non-technical term that refers to all the tissues external to the vascular cambium, including the secondary phloem as well. Bark refers to the number of tissues, periderm, secondary phloem, etc. Bark that is formed early in the season is called as the this one is called as the early or the soft bark. Towards the end of the season, there is formed late or the hard bark. At the regions, the phallogen certain because of the pressure of the inner cells, it becomes sloughed off at certain times. Now I am explaining you the term lenticels and how they are formed. Actually, at certain regions, the phallogen cuts off closely arranged parenchymatous cells on the outer side. They emerge outside instead of the cork cells. These parenchymatous cells soon rupture of the epidermis. These soon rupture of the epidermis and forming a lens-shaped opening called as the lenticels. This lens-shaped opening is formed, which is called as the lenticels. And now these lenticels, they permit the exchange of gases between the outer and the inner atmosphere. The internal tissue of the stem gets little exposed off, and this occur in most of the woody trees. These structures are formed. Now this is a secondary growth of the stem. Now when the secondary growth may take place in the root also, which occurs like this. Now we will be discussing, this is in case of the in the roots, how does it take place. You can see it here, because I told you the vascular bundles are radial, and cambium is in dicot root, the vascular cambium is completely secondary in origin, because and when the growth is primary, there is no cambium. It originates from the tissues just located below the phloem bundle, like this, as you can see it here, just located below the phloem bundles, and a portion of the pericycle above the protoxylem, forming a complete and continuous but a wavy ring, which later becomes circular. And this is in case of the dicotyledonous stem, and monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous plants show marked variation in their internal structures. They differ in type, in number, in location of the vascular bundles. Secondary growth occur in most of the dicotyledonous roots and stems. It increases the girth, which means diameter, of the organ by the activity of vascular cambium and cork cambium. Wood is actually a term used for the secondary xylem, and there are different types of the wood on the basis of their composition and time of the production. So this is all about the secondary growth in the plants. So my dear students, thank you very much. Stay safe till we meet next time with the next chapter, and you can keep your queries on my phone number or on my email address and enable me to find the answers for your question. Till then, thank you.